When Mrs. Markle heard the doorbell, the kettle in the kitchen had just begun to boil. As usual, she was standing over the sink, scolding the faucet that had been acting up for 3 days. Hissing, splashing, almost mocking her attempts to fix it herself. She sighed heavily, wiping her hands on a towel. Finally, she murmured with relief, heading toward the door. On the doorstep stood her nephew Alex. 26 years old, tall, slender, a backpack slung over his shoulder and his familiar half-smile on his lips. There was always something kind in his eyes, as if he understood more than he said. Where's the faucet? Let's save your kitchen, he joked lightly as he stepped inside. She hugged him tightly. The embrace was not so much from joy as from the loneliness that had been building in her for years. A silent gratitude that at least someone had come. Just don't break anything. You may be an engineer, but like your father, your hands are golden. Though they don't always grow from the right place, she teased. Alex laughed, set his backpack on the floor, pulled out a set of tools, and slid skillfully under the sink. He worked with quiet focus, softly whistling, while Mrs. Markle watched him and felt how long it had been since this house had known a calm, reliable male presence. About 20 minutes later, he crawled out, wiping his hands on a towel. All done. Try it. She turned on the water. No hissing, no dripping. A smooth stream, textbook perfect. Simple, quiet joy. Well, good job, she said with surprise. I was already looking up plumbers online. Thank you, Alex. He shrugged and sat down at the table. Got any tea? Of course, she nodded. Brewing strong black tea, almost as dark as asphalt. She took potato pies from the oven, set them on the table, sat beside him, and looked at him warmly. So tell me, how are you? I heard you lived with Lena, but there was no wedding. He averted his gaze, silent, poked at a pie, then finally said, We broke up, didn't work out. She nodded, understanding without words. Pain is different for everyone. They sat quietly for a while. Then Mrs. Markle said, You know, in our accounting department, there's a woman, 32, smart, practical. Want me to introduce you? Alex smiled. Mrs. Markle, you're like a mom, always wanting to find me someone. But for now, I just want to rest. He looked at her more softly, with a tired tenderness. Honestly, I just wanted to come somewhere that smells like tea and pies, where no one asks who I want to be in 5 years. Her eyes grew warmer. She silently patted his shoulder. You can always come, even if nothing is leaking. They finished their tea in silence. Words seemed unnecessary. By the way, your bathroom valve is noisy, he added. Go ahead, take a look, she said. And while you're at it, fix the shower screen. It bends strangely. When he went to the bathroom, Mrs. Markle stood by the window, watching the evening light slide across the sill. At that moment, she thought that perhaps he had really fixed the faucet, but what he mended most was her heart. It had grown lonely that winter. Quietly, invisibly. But he had come, and it felt like spring. A week passed since Alex had fixed her faucet. He hadn't called and she tried not to wait. But on Saturday evening the doorbell rang again. She glanced at the clock. Her heart beat a little faster. She opened the door. There he was again. This time without a backpack. In a light jacket, holding a box of chocolates and a thin package wrapped in paper. I just thought I'd stop by. If that's okay. Of course it's okay. Come. Her voice trembled, but she quickly composed herself. Chocolates. And what's this? A scarf. You said your favorite one got lost. I found one that looks similar. She felt a lump in her throat but only nodded, going to the kitchen to put on the kettle. Alex sat at the table quietly, not getting in her way. The house felt cozy again. How was your week? She asked, handing him a cup. He shrugged. Work. And then emptiness. You know, Mrs. Markle, sometimes the silence in an apartment is louder than any city. I thought, if you've got some silence to spare, I'd like to share it. She sat down slowly across from him. The fine lines near her eyes seemed to smile. I've got plenty of silence, and I've long been looking for someone to share it with. They drank tea, ate chocolates. Few words, many glances. Understanding didn't need explanation. For the first time in ages she didn't feel so cold, so alone. You're a grown woman. he said quietly. But with you it feels warm like being with Mom as a child. Only without reproaches, without pressure. And you're a grown man, she replied. But in you there's something of a boy who just needs someone nearby. He raised his gaze, held it on her face, and for the first time in years she didn't look away. In that kitchen, under the glow of the old lamp, the air grew thick with feelings. They seemed to hang like steam from the tea. I've been thinking about you since the day you left, she confessed softly. And it feels strange. I'm not a girl anymore. And I think of you all the time. And it's not strange, he replied, his voice rougher but full of tenderness. Silence fell, the kind where even breathing sounded loud. He stood, walked closer, slowly, as if giving her time to step back. But she didn't. He touched her hand lightly, delicately. She didn't pull away. May I? He asked. She didn't answer in words, only closed her eyes and nodded. He leaned down, kissed her forehead, long, slow. That kiss was like a promise, wordless but warm, reaching deep into the soul. Later, when he left again, she sat by the window with her half-finished tea, watching as the first snow began to fall. The snow lay on the sill as if to cover her loneliness. But now that loneliness was different, lighter, almost unnoticeable. Because somewhere in the city there was someone who understood, who felt, and who perhaps needed her just as much as she needed him.